Before we introduce our consultant, I'm going to invite our Pro Tem City Manager, David Benson, up to say a few words.
Thank you all. My name is David Benson. As Kim said, I'm the City Manager Pro Tem. Just wanted to come and talk to you for a minute. First of all, say thank you to Kim and the ELC team and Dawn for the outstanding work they're doing in helping carry this forward. You'll hear, are we going to talk about Alan?
Well, I don't use that.
No one here is named Alan, right? Because if there is later when Alan comes up, we don't like Alan, but that's not directed at you if you don't like Alan. Alan, in this instance, will stand for artificial lighting at night. And I know a lot about artificial lighting at night on account of, I'm a native Oregonian, but in 1991 I moved down to Houston, Texas, and spent the next 30-some years down there. And if y'all have ever been to Houston, big sprawly city, about 500,000 more people in Harris County than there are in Oregon, and also happens to sit next to one of the country's largest ports, and has one of the world's largest concentrations of petrochemical and refining facilities, and they light those things up like Christmas. And so there's about 5 stars in the sky down in Houston, and it was real nice to get back home and realize that the rest of them are still up there. And what we're looking to do, right, is to preserve that. Cities like Flagstaff, folks in Colorado, I know have done this. There's some good examples out there of other cities that are moving down this road. And again, I wanted to just say, nobody's coming for combustion engines, nobody's coming for gas stoves. We're here to make sure that we are lighting things responsibly and safely in a manner that ensures our protection, but also is thoughtful of the world around us. Because if you go looking at research, there's my friends at the Bird Alliance have some good information on the impact on birds, but you can also find research on the impact on insects, on nocturnal animals, and on us. Right, so responsible use of light, like responsible use of many things we have come up with, is critical if we're going to be successful going forward. And I just wanted to say thank you all for being here, and with that I'm going to hand it back to Kim and Dawn, and let's roll. Or Stephanie.
It was me. Thank you so much, David. Again, my name is Stephanie Howell. I'm the Event and Outreach Coordinator with Explore Lincoln City. And as Kim had mentioned earlier, after the quick presentation, feel free to walk around and mingle and ask questions with staff and volunteers. And at this time, I want to introduce Dawn Nielsen. She is the Dark Skies Consultant for Travel Oregon, and we are very, very lucky to have her as Lincoln City's Dark Sky Consultant as well. With that, I'd love to introduce Dawn.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for making the effort to learn more about this initiative. I've been doing this dark sky work for about 16 years, and the number one thing that I always hear is, I just didn't know. And so, none of us set out to light irresponsibly. We just don't know what is responsible. And then once we know, we can all make a difference, and we can leave everything behind for generations after us. All right, so just a few things for today. This is all about providing an opportunity to learn about the city's initiative to pursue an international, not just local, U.S., these are international dark sky community, to ask questions and share concerns with city staff and local partners, and to obtain feedback. This is a feasibility stage, so we want to hear from you on what you think about all of this, what your concerns are, if you support it or if you don't, or if you just don't know because you need more information. This is the time. I want to bring your attention to this picture. About 20 years ago, the first pictures came from space, and we saw the entire globe. And we saw all these lights, and everyone was so impressed. People started buying posters because it was so beautiful, because we saw all these lights from space. This is from 2012, not as far back as we were, and things look they're even more sparkly lights now in 2025. But I want to bring this to your attention because when we looked at that and we thought, isn't that pretty? Look at all those lights. We can tell where the cities are. We can tell where the Mississippi is. We can tell the coast of Florida. We can tell where San Diego and San Francisco and LA are. You can see everything. If you are seeing all that light up in space, that light isn't going where it needs to go. We don't need to light up space, right? And so if you're lighting up space, you're also wasting money, right? You're wasting energy, and energy is money. So if if you're thinking about making a difference in the climate change thing, save the energy. If you're thinking about your monthly bills, do it just to save the money, because this is just waste. That's why they call it light pollution, because it doesn't need to be there, right? So every time I see somebody say, I always say, nope, I don't think it's pretty anymore. Now this is a diagram, this is a heat map of if you're on the Earth and you're modeling of what you think the quality looks like above. So one is satellites with the equipment up there, the VIIRS equipment up there, that take those shots and we see all that light radiance. This is people on Earth that do these studies, that use these sky quality meters, that participate with a handheld with their own phone and do this globe at night, citizen science. And this is the map we get. Now you see, there aren't as many empty spaces as we saw when we looked from space. And that's because imagine when you put a candle in a room. A small candle will have light extend throughout this whole room. It'll be darker in the back. It won't be as much light as closer to the candle. But light really just keeps going, going, going. That's why we can see things through scopes at 35 million light years away with just a simple telescope. And we can see things with our naked eye in a really dark sky at 2.5 million light years away, just with our naked eye, because light does that. And so where you see the black is where it's pristine, where there's very, very little. And this, again, this is from 2015. So things have changed a lot in the last 10 years. Look at this largest area in all the areas that you see, in all the big black contiguous areas that aren't out in the water. A big chunk of this is in our Oregon. So, we hear about Utah and Arizona because they have the high deserts. But in terms of having skies that don't have all that light pollution in it, it's here in Oregon. And you can see, so this is the darkest you get. And then when you get into gray, you get in relatively pristine. When you get into the navy blue and the light blue, people in Europe and Western Europe have to go up into the Alps or into the Pyrenees up high to get that. So people are willing to travel to see that because they haven't seen that in such a long time. And then when you get into the green, you're starting to see the Milky Way with green. You can make it out a little bit with yellow if you know what you're looking for in the yellow areas, but you can definitely see a little bit of structure with the green. And then when you get into the yellow, it starts to disappear. You're not seeing Milky Way so much anymore. And then the red, and then you get to the pink and then the hot white. I mean, look at the LA area. Well, where's Chicago? Well, I'll show you where Chicago is, right? So look at the Oregon coast. And then look at all the rest of the coast. Not this blue, because this blue is out in the ocean. All this blue that's around here, that's not the shape of Florida. That's not the shape. This is all out in the ocean. This is Miami and Fort Lauderdale and all these these are all on the coast. If you look at all that coast, you're not going to find a place less light polluted than our Oregon coast. And amongst the cities, Lincoln City is, for its size, the least light polluted. There it is. There's Oregon. That's why Travel Oregon has gotten on this bus, because this is a way to make communities, both rural, both small cities, all have additional revenue, extend the tourist season, get people to stay overnight, to have nighttime activities. People stay overnight, people spend money. So everybody's onto this. So if you look at where we had almost none 2 years ago, right? We had just a simple thing in Sun River, and then we had a little teeny state park in Prineville, and then boom, I worked on this Outback. It's just this part of it now, but we're looking to do the whole thing. 2 times the size of New Jersey. Right now it's half of New Jersey. It's by far one of the it is the largest sanctuary, dark sky sanctuary in the world. But look, nothing on the coast. So Lincoln City could not only be the very first dark sky place of any kind on the Oregon coast, but it would be the only dark sky community on the coast in the entire US. So it distinguishes the city. It's a good time to be looking at this now, to be looking at stewardship, whether you move forward with it towards a certification or not. It's good to look at stewardship. because those satellites that have gone around and have picked up all the light, and they go around several times a day. They go pretty fast. So several times a day, they're picking it all up, and then they're sorting through that every day, and then through the months, and then through the years. And they've been collecting this information for over 12 years. And they put together a trend analysis on what's happening. And what you see is what's happening where you have the 0% is like no change, right? So you have some areas in the city over those past 12 years, it hasn't gotten either better or worse when you look over that full trend. When you're in the greens, right, it's improved. So look, this is pretty good, like outside the coast, so maybe some fishing fleets or something change. Look how nice the Taft neighborhood is in here. And then you get into the red. Now worldwide, we have an increase every year of 10%. That's the rate, 10% a year. And to put that in perspective, if a child is born today and sees 250 stars, by the 18th birthday, there'll be 100. So that's the rate, 10% per year. That's the rate of change. And so if we look here, we don't have any hot red except for out here. And that maybe squid fishing has really gone up, right? Squid fishing has gone on the rise, and the way they catch squid is they put big lights out onto the water to catch them. And so maybe these big bright lights are what's being picked up by the satellite and showing it worse, because that's only been happening since about 2016, where it's really on the rise. But you do have these areas in here, and so the nice thing about, there's so many things that we can't get a hold of, right? We can't change the plastic issues overnight. We can't change so many things overnight. We can't change habitat loss overnight. But we can just change our lights to be on motion detectors or flick a switch when we go to bed, at times when we don't need it. And not only does this stop getting worse, but it can reverse. So it is just the easiest thing to do to be a steward of the night. You're all familiar with this, and so I'm not trying to be your 5th grade science teacher, but I wanted to really emphasize this so you understand what the significance is of this light at night, this ALAN that a lot of us don't like, this ALAN, artificial light at night. And so, the Earth's been spinning on its axis, right? We have a day and a night. Every day needs a night. It's been doing that for a long time. And then we have a moon out there, and that moon reflects light from the sun, right? And this moon, this is actually from space, it's 29 days for us. When we're looking at the moon from new moon to the next new moon, it's 29 days. But that's going around the Earth. And so there's lots of nights you'll go out, and there you won't see a moon. You won't see a moon all evening long. So it's not always there. It's not always present. And then we have the Earth going around and orbiting the sun, right? For every 365 days. And each way around, we have seasons. Here we would be, in North America, we'd be in the winter. Over here, we'd be in summer. And then we have the equinoxes equal because it's neither facing towards or facing away. It's even. So all that comes with a certain amount of light, wherever you are. For 4.5 billion years, all life on Earth has evolved subject to the amount and duration of direct or indirect being the moon, or the absence of it altogether at a particular location on Earth. So once we throw in the last few generations, all this artificial light at night, all these creatures, including us, can't keep up with it. And all our metabolism, all our circadian rhythms, everything is tied to it. So it's wreaking havoc on some wildlife in particular. And so these are just a few of the benefits. You can come around the tables and talk about more, whatever your concerns are, health, safety, economics, the wildlife, and talk to us. But 80% of North American birds migrate at night. And so if there's a whole bunch of artificial light up there, they get trapped and they hang out, and then they don't have all their energy stored up, and it's harder for them to make it, and some of them might starve before they make it to their final destination. 62% of all species are nocturnal. So everything happens while you're sleeping. We're diurnal, but a lot is happening out there. 63% of mammals alone are nocturnal. So things evolved to be at night, and now the night is changing. Some places the night almost looks like daylight. 93% of amphibians, that's why we have a crisis with amphibians, 64% invertebrates, part of the insect apocalypse. And note, so if you're, not to pick on a hotel, but just to think about this, if you've got a light out on a hotel and you're facing it onto the beach, clams, crabs, and most snails are nocturnal. So, you're keeping them up all night, and then that's not going to all work out with the whole ecosystem, and the fishery is all part of the economy here as well. So well-designed and responsible outdoor lighting, like I said, it saves energy and money. The reason why we're here too and Explore Lincoln City is behind it, because everybody has realized that these dark sky places, people go to these destinations and people spend money, and it's a big boost. Not a huge boost, but it's a definite boost. It definitely makes it worth people's while to do it. And so look here, Lonely Planet, if anybody's ever traveled and they travel with a Lonely Planet guide, this is a book just to go to places that are dark sky destinations from Lonely Planet now. This is the cover of National Geographic, came out in April. Noctourism, noct, right, for night, nocturnal, noctourism. Evening trips, taking people out to look at wetlands at night, taking people out on boats at night, going out and seeing wildlife at night, going out and watching the birds migrate across the full moon is a thing now. People are paying to do that. I can't say enough about this, because if you can put everything aside, if we just think about our humanity, we've had this amazing thing above us that has inspired so much art, so much cultural tradition. Almost all the major religions have been inspired by the skies. We have this source of inspiration and this source of well-being just by seeing something greater than ourselves and something that still has magic and mystery in it. Preserves our cultural heritage. Now here, lighting with less blue light heeds the warning from the American Medical Association about blue-rich white light. I want to show you, this is the culprit here, LEDs, and I'm not here to say LEDs are bad, because they're not. They're not used they're used with people just not knowing. So if people have a light and they want to change out their light and they looked on the box and the box said it was 2,000 lumens, they go out and they say, well, now I'm going to buy an LED light and I'm going to get 2,000, but they're so cheap, I'm going to get a 3,000 lumens. Well, the way that LED is designed, it's so well targeted that you can get away with half. So we're just using it improperly. And then the LED light that came out first has a lot of this blue light. And this blue light is something we just don't have naturally at night. And our eyes pick it up. If we went blind, we would still be able to see whether it was day or night because of that blue. It gets picked up by cells in our eyes. And so if you look at the LED, Kelvin temperature, we've got different bulbs here. We talk about Kelvin temperature. That's the correlate. Light is, right? It's a whole bunch of different colors. So you see a white bulb, it's a whole bunch of different colors. But look at you as you go higher, and every box you see, it's going to tell you the Kelvin temperature on it. You just look for that. It might say 3,000, or some will say daylight, and it's 5,000. Well, maybe you want daylight in your kitchen when you're cooking so you don't chop off your thumb, but you don't need daylight at night. Look at the difference in that blue. This is 4,000, and this is considered soft. Here's 3,000. This is the absolute maximum to be any kind of lighting in a dark sky community. This is the max. But look, it's half of the 4. Look at 2,700. You don't have to go 1,000 Kelvin less, just 300, and look at your less. So if you go to the yellow bulbs, that yellow bulb there is 2,400. You get better and better. You're taking out that blue. And this is what's disturbing to us as humans and most things that evolved here on Earth. It's this light. And the American Medical Association came out over 12 years ago and warned people of that. And that's why you have those red shift things on your computer screens and stuff. But it's also maybe coming in from your neighbor's garage light into your home at night. And that's associated with some illnesses they're fighting. You know, if there's still some Calvin and Hobbes fans out there, I just think, like I said, you know, you can think of all the reasons that it benefits us, but I sit and I think about this a lot, because if we did just connect and have that stillness, that tranquility of an evening, that silence, and we connected again, you know, maybe we would behave a lot differently. And notice Homer's not here to disturb the peace of their star viewing, but this is a goal. How many remember when you were younger, for those who are older, when you could really go out and sit outside and you did things like this? You just sat outside with the family, or you went to the beach and you laid on the blanket and you looked up at the sky, right? You know, on clear nights, that's what we always have to say in Oregon. On a clear night, we can see lots of stars, right? So this is the goal. It's just really simple, you know? It's just to get back to just good-hearted basics. I'm not going to go through all this. These are the criteria of what it takes to be eligible, but what you won't find on this list is you don't have to be really dark. That's the, oh, you're a dark sky community, you have to be dark. No, dark sky sanctuaries, dark sky reserves, dark sky parks, they need to be pretty dark. Dark sky communities, no. There's a community, there are 2 communities outside in still the Chicago metro area that are way, way, way light polluted, that are dark sky communities, because they just think it's a good idea for their residents, and they think it's a good idea to attract visitors, to be stewards like that. You know, so they're doing it. And so you don't have to be dark, but what you have to be is committed to doing what's necessary to just stop the trend, right? Stop the trend, and as best you can, turn it back. And so with that comes, and that's why we only have 56 communities worldwide, because it requires a lighting ordinance. And it requires the city, all of their owned lights, to replace them to be all this responsible lighting within 5 years. That's a tall order for a lot of folks. I mean, it might take longer, so they apply later, or it just might be way too expensive, and so it just doesn't happen. So we have 56 of these. And they're growing, but those 56, that's double the number from 5 years ago, and the program's over 20 years. So people are seeing the important. But here's why you're all here too. 10 years for everybody else. So there's a 10-year window. And you know, this isn't about, nobody's going to be the light police. The city's not, you know, ever going to be thinking about hiring more police to go out and patrol and to be the light police. This is about good neighbors, right? Everybody wants to be a good neighbor. And you're a good neighbor, you don't shine your garage light into somebody's bedroom window. That's just neighborliness. Everybody can resolve these things by themselves. And over here, we've provided some good examples of really inexpensive alternatives, you know, to what we find now. There's a picture here of what we mostly see now, and what we, you know, and what it could be in the future for the commercial areas and the residential areas. But it's not a big lift. And, you know, if the city moves forward on this, they'll be looking for means and for funding means to help everybody out to get there. Because this is your community. This is something that you desire or you don't. You know, this is all this is about commitment. This is just to say there's a broad area. Well, you see commitment here. We have commitment. We have Cascade Head here. We have the Bird Alliance here. We have the Astronomy Club. We have folks that are commitment. We have all the staff. We have all these city representatives here. So there are a lot of committed folks. We have, where are we? We're in the outlets. Sharon put together this space and created all these videos. So we have some commitment already that's being built within the community. And that's what you need to show in an application. This is so simple. This is what, every time I say responsible lighting, and when you heard the city manager talk about it, it's just light only if it's needed. And if you do have a light, target it so it's down and fully shielded. Don't have it any brighter than necessary. There's a lot of excessive lights in some of the commercial parking lots. Don't really see that in the residential communities, but just have it at the lowest level. And it's amazing. We have this supervision. We have this superpower called night vision. We're not cats, we're not cougars, but we have pretty significant night vision. We've got some astronomy people in the audience here. I never use a flashlight, even when there's no moon out. I find my way around out in the desert. We have this amazing, just from the light of the stars, by the way. Just the light of the stars gets you by. So, you know, it's actually, if the light's not overly bright, it helps you adapt and it helps you find your way at night. Control, put it on a timer, put it on a motion sensor, put it on a dimmer. right? So it's not as bright as night. And when you do this, you're saving money. And then the big thing for wildlife is this color. Get out the blue. So when you're buying your light bulb, when you're buying a new fixture, look at the box. Try to get that lowest K. Definitely not more than 3,000. Get that lowest K. And that's all it takes. 2,700? Yeah, 2,700 is great. Yeah, you'll hear people say, oh, 3,000. No, it's no more than 3,000, and I'm here to tell you as an ecologist, 3,000 isn't going to cut it. Because you know what, the old lights that we're replacing, most of the old street lights, those high-pressure sodium, are 2,200. You know the old halogen lights at a lot of places, 2,200. So we are replacing mostly 2,200 Kelvin with 4,000 to 5,000. And so 3 is better than 4,000 to 5,000, and so that's how they struck that 3,000. But 3,000 isn't going to I wouldn't spend money to put 3,000 in unless you couldn't find any other alternative. Spend the change your bulb, go down to 2,700 or less. And if you use that orange bulb, you're going to knock mosquitoes. I mean, you're not going to have as many mosquitoes. So if you like sitting outside, get an orange bulb. That's why it's called a bug light. Keeps them away, doesn't attract them. This is over there too. You're welcome to grab that. But we went around. We went all around the area, and we went looking for what the lights look like. What is the status? What are the residential areas look like? What are the parking lots? What are the commercial areas? And we saw a lot of these types of lights. Well, of course, we're finding mariners' lights. We're on the coast, right? The old jelly jars. Some globe lights. Really attractive lights, by the way. Everybody has quite the taste. Sadly, they're not shielded, right? So that's lights going everywhere. This is what it could look like, right? This is, if you don't see the bulb. The bulb is hidden. In every single one of these, the bulb is hidden inside, except this one. So how is this okay? It's okay because that fixture is purely motion detection. And if you're on a motion detector, less than 5 minutes, you're exempt. You're doing a great thing. You're exempt. If you're so even the spotlight there, that's 3,000 Kelvin, so it's on the higher side, but it's not over 3,000. It's not facing fully downward, but it's reasonably shielded. But it's on a motion detector, and it's exempt. So nobody's saying you can't still have the lights that you need to use, right? But you just are doing it more responsibly. These are the kinds of lights we see in the commercial area. These are wall packs. And some of these, you could put at Fort Knox. I mean, they're beyond bright. They light the pavement below you, just like you're outside during a sunny day. I mean, that's way excessive. And then as soon as you walk away from those lights, you can't see. So we want to move from this towards this, and look at, you're saying the same thing, these fancy, and you see these around town. I've seen these in insurance brokers, and then this light here facing down, that's all. Everything's tucked inside and facing down, and you actually get better light. You don't need to have a light that's tilting out. That's an old style light. Again, it's kind of like we're taking old technology, and we have new technology now, and we're thinking it works the same, but the new technology, those diodes in there are really directed. So you have something like this, it's not just going straight down here, it's spreading out, it's lighting just as much as if you had something tilted up, but you're not throwing it in somebody's eyeballs. Same thing, here's the street lights, right? You have some of these, right? Sadly, it's too blue. So where we have a lot of shielded lights, it's too blue. And then where we have the good color, they're not shielded. And we need to have all of them to qualify for certification. We have some of these lights right here in the parking lot outside. Do you see that color? It's kind of warmer. This is about 2,700. The ones outside are 4,000. So sadly, they're too blue. But they're, and it's just, again, because people didn't know, right? So now everybody's learning something, and we can make a few changes. So just to let you know where we're at, part of that long list says we have to put together a sky quality monitoring program. We found 3 sites. If you go and you see one of these things that look like a soup can, size of soup can, just leave it be. That's That's looking at the sky quality every 5 minutes. It's taking measurements every 5 minutes, and then that data gets downloaded. And so there'll be 3 of them in the city. Part of it is having a big comprehensive an education and awareness program. The city's already, and having celebrations and events. The city's already had an International Dark Sky Week event, right? We've already done that. Already put some really nice floats out for that too. Already developed the web page. So a lot's already been happening. There's an info sheet you'll see over there about the project if you want to pass it on to your neighbor. There's already this robust engagement program. We've had stakeholder meetings. We're having this town hall. Tomorrow I'll be at the chamber talking to the business community about it. And we've worked on this lighting audit. I'm going to wrap right here. The long and short, I've already told you. Lots of shielded lights in the commercial, just too blue. Lots of unshielded residential, but not overly bright and not many over 3,000. So we just have to get everything to come together all at once. And we had volunteers help to do that. And you just see this. This is kind of like how significant. Oh, look at the parking lots, okay? So in Rhodes End, so far north of the city in that neighborhood, we had a real issue with shielding in the parking lots. This is in the lighted signs. Here's the parking lot. So, out of 16, you can just look at that. That looks maybe about 3/4, right? 3/4 of the lights. Nobody count it. This is eyeballing it. We just want to get a handle. We just wanted to get an audit, just an idea of where things were. And, and we come down to every neighborhood's a little different. If you're somebody with means and you have a nice vacation property in Olivia Beach, that really is the neighborhood for the most shielded lights. The most shielded lights, the street lights. So if you want to see what something is a demonstration, the area in Olivia Beach, and if you want to see a commercial property that's really doing well, you see the picture back there, Pelican Brewery. Really, that's your fine example. This is the city did a full inventory of its own lights, 1,020, and that includes the 862 that are owned by Pacific Power, but they're on behalf for the city, right? But still, look at all these lights. And at best case, just the building lights, 18% are compliant. So the city's got a lift. The city's going to have to replace just about every light that it owns or operates, right? So it's, look at how pretty these are when they were put out, but we just didn't know. We just didn't know we were just going to throw this light out. We just thought of this is pretty and attractive, right? This is not to pick on anybody if the person's in the room here, but it's an example when the volunteers went around. If you see here, you don't see the light. It's tucked underneath the roof. So even if the fixture itself isn't shielded, it's not one of these, but it's maybe a lantern, but you can't see it straight on, that's considered shielded because of the eave that shields it. And you can see the ground below. It's lit. You can find your way to the door. That's what it's for, to get to the door. Hey, there's a door here. You walk in, you find the door. But look at the light here. This is daylight bright. And these lights are going out. And if you're driving down that road and it's at night, you've just lost your night vision. And for those of us who are older, 35 and older, your eyes start to yellow. Your eyes depreciate, like in terms of how well you see at night. And when you start to get cataracts, it's big halos, so it becomes dangerous. So all that glare like that actually starts to become a hazard. Oops. And so, we're soon to wrap up, probably about the end of August, wrap up this first phase and to give this information about where the city lights are. They've all been mapped, they've all been identified, they're all on these spreadsheets, and to look for qualifications from a vendor who can come in and give better estimates and come up with different designs and say, maybe you want to look at these kinds of lights. But just to get the qualifications to see what people are doing this. And then to continue for Explore Lincoln City to just continue to work with people to strengthen these partnerships, to get the word out, to talk to businesses about the tourism opportunities, because, Lincoln City can still be a dark sky destination whether it's certified or not. But you're on the map. You're on an international map if you're amongst that short list of, there's 250 worldwide. You have 700 biospheres worldwide. It's great. You're in a biosphere. You're among 700. And when you think about the size of the planet, that's pretty big. You're amongst 250 you'd be amongst 250 of these dark sky places, and amongst, probably by the time it could be 60 dark sky communities. So you're kind of would be in a special class. The Explore Lincoln City has a pretty robust, they've already developed a pretty robust website with a lot of links, and so I would advise you to just go there first. And of course, Dark Sky International, who's been around for over 30 years, this is all they do, is promote the protection of the night. And you know, if you are on the shy side and you're not comfortable speaking with anyone here, you know, write down your question. Make sure you get it out there. Write down your question and give it to one of the meeting hosts. Most of us are wearing stickers or badges like this. And if you want to get updates too, talk to one of the folks from Explore Lincoln City. Get your name on a list so you can get newsletters with any further updates. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawn. I just wanted to come back up and say thank you to Dawn for a couple things. One, for that outstanding presentation. Two, for picking up a little bit of something that I overlooked. One is thank you, Sharon, and the good folks at the mall here for letting us be here tonight. And I also neglected to recognize a few of my bosses, your elected representatives who are in the room. Mayor Walkey's with us, Councilors Homebaum and Baker and Barker are back there. I think that's all of them, but did want to say thank you all for coming, and with that,
yeah, we still, yeah, come and. We've got handouts that people can take back with them, or any kind of questions. If you want to kind of get on the wagon and talk about what kind of light you might change or any of your concerns, just let folks know, please. If you have some questions now, if you're not shy to press it from the room, I can take some questions up front too. Yes.
Can we get the question on the mic? And I know when you talk about how much light you need in a parking lot, well, how much light you need to not bump into your, something on your way to the car versus can I see there's somebody dangerous 3 cars over, are different light levels. And this is a community where you can get knifed just walking your dog and get killed. And we are a very high crime little city.
Yep.
And one where we have a lot of overcast days like today where you're not going to see the stars anyway. And tourism is our only industry. And if people don't feel safe, they won't come. If we take out attractive lighting, they'll stop coming. And so that's my concern.
That is a very valid concern. Obviously, we're never going to leave our 24/7. We have this light. It's helped us advance as a society because we have this light at night. We get to feel safer. All I say is everything's about the design of it. So if you have a light that's in I have a video too that if you could have everything even right, the color, temperature, bright, not overly bright, and you can put that light between 2 trees and it creates these deep shadows. So you could have light brighter than daylight. You could have light that's like, in terms of lumens, the average house around the door is about 600 to 850. You could have 3,000 lumens on your spot towards your car, but if you have something where you're creating that deep shadow, crooks know to hide in the shadow. And so a lot of what we have believed to be safe, we have this impression because we have this light, we're safe, and there's just so many things that show. It's like, it's all about creating this transitional lighting. And sometimes if it's too bright and then there's nothing, it's actually making things less safe because they know to hide behind the bush because it's in the shadow. They know to do that. And trust me, they've done interviews with burglars. And they actually go to the houses with the lights on because it's easier for them to find their way and they don't look suspicious versus if a motion detector pops on. And so they know these things, but so no one would be talking about getting rid of those lights and our safety factor. And then there's how much light is safe so we can see and so we don't trip and so we don't get lost in the shadow as soon as we walk away from that light. Now there's no light and we can't adjust. And then there's our sense of safety. And no one's going to argue with people's sense of safety because there's a perception of safety. And especially as women, we just feel like, we have a fear of the dark because we don't feel safe for our bodies and often, right? And so we have the light. But I'll just say it's really about good lighting design and how much light it is. And there would be nothing to take. And when those lights are going out like this and going far out, and that's not lighting where you need to be, right? And so, yeah, so when you're talking about a directed light and getting to your car and walking to your car and seeing pretty far away, is there somebody under your car? I mean, I'm still one of those people. I grew up in Philadelphia. And I went to school. So I'm still one of those people who bend down before I get close to my car to make sure no one's under my car. So these LED lights that are facing down actually provide that better coverage of light, that light that is safer. So there is no such thing as any kind of dark sky friendly light that would make something less safe. It's actually because it's more directed, because it's focused on where it needs to be, it's actually more utilitarian. Is there another?
Get all the questions on the microphone instead of up in here.
I'd rather not use that. I really have a loud voice. What's the bottom line? Why can't we do this kind of thing on our own rather than joining your club? What's the bottom line for joining your club as a community? It's going to cost us for those. A lot of us can't afford that. This is a retirement community for the most part.
And that's why I said the whole idea is for people to be voluntary and people who to be aware, and people who can't afford it, you know, the city would have to come up with some kind of assistance program.
They'll pass the tax on to us.
Well, the good thing that you folks have that a lot of communities don't, so they just don't even have a place to start, is you have a 12% lodging tax. So that's not on the resident. So a lot of the stuff, then that goes all the way back into tourism. And if this is to grow tourism, I'm sure, and maybe we need somebody from, up here, but we're talking about probably most of this is going to come from those monies from lodging tax. So those are being paid by the tourist, so that then more jobs are created, more opportunities are created. And so I would say the bottom line is you become more of a dark sky destination. It grows from just a few seasons, and it can expand into winter, and people come into the winter months because it's a longer season. People are encouraged to spend the night, and so people, once they spend the night, they spend more money, and that does profit the person, because if you're getting all that money in lodging tax, then you don't have to get hit with your property tax.
Why can't the city, when a light fixture needs to be repaired, why don't they end up putting the 2,700 light bulbs in? And I mean, we all have to be aware of things changing.
Yeah, so progressively, for the city to do this progressively. Sometimes to do it progressively costs a lot, because these things are done often for cities. They're done in bulk, right? So the more you purchase in those lights.
Right, but us residents will be taxed on that. And I mean, we all pay our fair share. Obviously, we live here. But some people cannot afford it. And,
Well, I'm hoping that this is the city's hearing this, because that's why there's a 10-year period, and I'm gonna hem and haw here, but I know of folks in Sedona. Sedona's 10 years old with their dark sky community, and I have a friend with a home in Sedona, and his lights aren't dark sky friendly, and we're really close friends. Nobody's arrested, nobody's police. If more people do this than not, it goes. The thing is that to go towards a certification to get the notoriety, you have to have the ordinance. Nobody's saying you have to have.
Why can't we have,
Enforcement, yeah.
why can't, not in enforcement, but why can't we have more of this talked about at the city council meetings? To tell us that, because I go every couple of weeks, and I know many of my friends go, and it needs to be voiced out so that, I mean, you're selling something but you're selling also your ideas. And we use a motion sensor light, and we have so many raccoons that my husband turned it off a couple of weeks ago because now they're out. And he says, well, I can't sleep. And I said, we need to do something different. But we don't have any lights at all. So I'm just stating the fact that you're giving me ideas. Because I want Lincoln City to be a productive city. We're a tourist city. And I know that people that are coming into the hotels and things like that, they gotta have some kind of lighting. So the city has to step up and say, okay, this is what we need to do. But it shouldn't always come out of the people. I think the city needs to be more responsible in when they change something out, to change it properly.
And we've had those conversations, and that's why I wanted to show that the city has just done the full inventory. Like, the city is not going to ask anybody to do something that it's not going to ask of itself, and it's not going to create an unfunded mandate, you know, which we'll be talking about if a whole bunch of folks can't afford this.
That's why I was asking, what's the bottom line here? What do you expect us to pay you to do this?
Me as a representative of the city, or me, because I'm just representing the city with this, this
You're representing, to me, you're representing Dark Sky Inc. So.
Well, I don't work for them, yeah. I mean, what I'm representing is stewardship, right, is stewardship of,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
for
That's
generation.
what I want.
Stewardship, that's what I'm representing.
I love that I came tonight
Yeah.
because I wanted to know what this was about. And it helped me because my husband's not here, but I'm going to take this home and I'm going to tell him that, you know, Lincoln City is doing quite well. But
Well, if you think about it, you're in a biosphere, and the whole idea even behind a biosphere, and we have bird alliance, but we have Cascade Head. Yeah. The whole idea is to show how you can be, you know, steward the natural world and have economic prosperity. I mean, that's the idea behind a biosphere. And that's why Lincoln City was selected to do that. And so everything that I'm speaking of here is kind of in tandem with the whole biosphere notion. It's environment and economy and everything together, right? That kind of prosperity.
with economy and all, it's just some people, if you put in a mandate,
Oh,
look at how many businesses that we've lost in this city. Including this one. Yes. In the last, I've lived here almost 13 years. And just within the last 2 to 4 years, we've lost Joann's, we've lost Rite Aid, they're gone. And we're in the same area, and it's because the city raises the taxes up. So the city is responsible.
yeah, well, it's happening everywhere. I mean, I live in Portland. It's happening everywhere because so much of it's happened because of COVID. Everybody stayed home and everybody orders everything online. But everybody's gotten to order everything online. That's such a huge part for you know, on the ground retail. That's really been the biggest hit, is everything went online and everybody got used to it. Do you want to address some of these concerns? Because these are about concerns, and I told staff these were going to be the concerns because these are all valid concerns. When I was doing the work on the Outback, I had to say to Dark Sky, I said, look, these are ranchers out here. If you tell me that I have to get every single rancher on board, every single solitary rancher, it's never going to happen. If you say that other than the public lights, for all the BLM lights and all the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we had 17 agencies, but then we also had private. And I said, if the private folks have to do anything with their lighting versus volunteer, give the education and do something, it's going to be a big no. And then this huge area that becomes one of these last places to protect, you know, one of the big places like that to have a refuge for generations to come to go to will be gone, because we don't do things like that usually. And the way we do it in Oregon is like, tell us something makes sense, it's a good idea, we'll volunteer and we'll do it. But if you tell us to do it, it's harder. The sad thing is that when it comes to a dark sky community, you have to have a policy. And this is not, that's why we're getting this information, that's why we're providing different ideas under $50 and bulbs that are $2, and have bulb exchange where people can come and pick up a $2 bulb and put it in their lantern, you know, so that then they're done and they're compliant and they're consistent, because we can't, it's just not the way we roll in Oregon. We'll do things because they just seem to make sense, right? Because we care for our beautiful home. But it's harder when we're told to. So, you know, it's working through that middle ground. And so the city has to work with more education and to be an example. So to get more of these demonstrated, you know, these demonstrative places, and to search for grant funding too, so that anybody who wants to do it, who just doesn't have the means, can just, you know, go in and fill out a form and get their exchange if they're up for doing it. I mean, that's the way, in speaking to staff and speaking to folks, that Lincoln City wants to do it. Lincoln City wants to do this in a neighborly way if people want to see this for their community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
David, I don't mean to be antagonistic, honest.
I know that.
I'm open to all things, as you know. I just want to know the bottom line. What is it going to cost us as a city?
And I think the very short answer to that is, again, in the early, this phase one is exploratory. If I understood Don correctly, we're going to get to that answer. And I appreciated what Don said about what Lincoln City wants. And the other thing I was thinking, maybe what Lincoln City wants right now is to take a little break and get some snacks. And mingle a little bit.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said 56 places. Is that in Oregon?
Worldwide. 56 communities worldwide. And some are as small as 34, like Antelope. A lot are like 500, 2,000 sisters. Antelope is one, 34 people. Sisters is a dark sky community as of December with 2,000 people.
Antelope kind of has a bad name in Oregon.
Well, they're trying to change that, and that's their whole thing. They want to change that name. But there are places that are 70,000 people. There are places in Florida over 25,000 people who are doing this.
With that said, plenty of opportunity, right? The conversation's not over. I just want to make sure we're all free to mingle around and check out the different booths. And I know that Don's probably going to stay here as long as anybody's got a question, even after it's dark, most likely.
Are you just in the paper or in the city council? We go every other week, and you know.
This isn't the last you're going to hear of this. I'll make that pledge to you.
Will you?
Yeah.
The mayor's here too. She knows she won't get away with letting it drop.
No, the questions are good and we're appreciative of them, but right now I did want to let everybody get up and stretch their legs and get something to drink. Thank you all again for being here.